Hello, and welcome to the Guns on Pegs podcast with me, George Brown.
And me, Chris Horn.
Chris, how you going?
Very good, George. It's become spring. We're outside.
Yeah.
All actually feeling a lot better.
It's nice, isn't it? The sun's been out here for a few days. I get the occasional shower, but it's not, it just makes an enormous difference to just be outside.
It really does.
It's interesting. You say it's spring. We talked in a couple of episodes ago about my love for chickens. And it's around this time of year when my cockerels start to get a bit frisky. And I've got two. One of them's a huge, great monster of a thing, and the other one is a tiny little white bantam cockerel. And the bigger one has been his testosterone is obviously running high, and he's been bullying the little one quite badly. So I put the little one in solitary confinement with his white bantam hen, but still in the same cage, just separated off. And I went out to collect the eggs 2 evenings ago, and the white cockerel was, shall we say, doing his thing with his hen whilst maintaining constant eye contact with the big cockerel, as if just to stick two fingers up to it. It was very funny. I thought I'd share that with you because I'm still enjoying that little bit of I don't know quite how to put it, nature happening. Yeah, he was very pleased with himself.
There's a lot more chicken action in the Brown household than in our one. We don't have chickens, but our neighbours had chickens. The last one got clobbered on Saturday night, and I heard it about 3 a.m. The fox got it, and my God, there was a hell of a noise.
Oh, they do make a din.
Yeah, I honestly thought it was the children screaming. I woke up going, "Oh, what's going on?" And turns out it wasn't. Nature being brutal at 3 a.m.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's. I always think this is a really interesting time of year. Everything just seems to be coming back to life. It's really nice.
Indeed.
But apart from all that, we've been pretty busy, haven't we?
We have. Scribehound is going really well. You and I, like, for those that know us well, we spend a lot of our time focusing on Scribehound now in and amongst our GOP roles, and that is really fun at the moment. There's some absolutely blinding content going out. There's been a piece from Ian Coghill on salmon farming, just awesome, really well written in very Ian Coghill style. Fascinating interview with Guy Adams interviewing Nigel Farage, which is well worth a read. Even if you don't like Nigel Farage, I'd encourage you to read it.
Yes, and I can say that I am not a Mr. Farage fan, but it is a very interesting article. And actually, I would like to highlight the one that came out today from Camilla Swift, all about working horses. I think we tend to think of horses as either being race horses or ponies for having fun on. But, until really quite recently, most horses had jobs to do. And some of them are now finding new jobs, even though they're not being used to pull carts full of beer to pubs and stuff. They've still got some jobs to do. But there's others that are kind of a bit in danger because they don't really have a job. So I think it's really interesting. I'm not really a horsey guy, as I've mentioned on the podcast before, but it's so fun.
It reminds me of a scene growing up. There's paintings everywhere in Suffolk of the old Suffolk Punch putting the beer barrels to the pubs. That is such a Suffolk scene.
Yeah.
Right. Our guest, though, George.
Yes, take it away.
How do we describe him? He is a passionate hunter, angler, mad keen angler, actually. He's founder of Game and Flames, which is a wood-fired catering and experiences company. He actually did my wedding, which you remember, George.
Well, vaguely.
But that's not actually the link why he's here today. He's a big regular on Field Sports Channel. He is actually on the front page of Shooting Times last week, weren't you? I'm looking for a nod. He was winner. The specific reason we thought we've got to get you on is he was winner of the Best Game Influencer Award in the Eat Game Awards very recently, which is the category, coincidentally, that we sponsor, that Guns on Pegs sponsors. And just this morning, he was named in the Game Fair Shooting and Conservation Power 100. Have you seen this? It's a definitive list of who matters in the shooting world. A massive warm welcome. Put down the lemon zester, stop chopping the onions, step away from the barbecue, and give a hearty yes, chef to Cai Ap Bryn.
Hi guys, how are we doing? Thank you for having me on the podcast.
It's brilliant to have you with us, Cai. Thank you very much. You are one of the 100 people who matter in shooting and conservation.
I saw that last night. That came through. I think Leon from Eat Game. He sent me a link. Said we were on the list, and I said, "What list?" And Power 100. I said, "Do they just pull these out the hat?" I don't know.
Well, it's interesting because I had a look at it this morning, and it was my co-host is on there, and Kai, you're on there,
Yes,
but I'm not. So apparently, I don't matter. And I'm not bitter
George.
about it at all.
Have I got a violin? Hold on. I've got dramatic piano. I don't have violin. Hey ho. It's an interesting list. Obviously, I think I know why the Game Fair have done it. It's just one of those things that people share around.
yeah.
There's some notable omissions. Exactly.
No, there's some credible people on there. There's some really good people on there. I think there's other people I could think of as well. But I mean, it's a big list, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I suppose I'm just going to have to drown my sorrows. So I think we will go straight on to what's that you're drinking? Smooth link.
Well, what's that you're drinking then?
Well, I am very sad that I'm not included in the list. So I'm on the hard stuff again. I'm on whiskey, and I've got some Ben Riach, 10-year-old Speyside single malt Scotch whiskey. And you'll know that I normally go for the very sherried whiskies. This one's a little bit different, a little bit lighter. It's aged in bourbon and new oak casks as well, so it's got a bit more woodiness and a little bit less sweetness. And it's very nice indeed. Yes, a few more of those, and I won't feel the pain anymore.
Have you had it on the pod before?
No. It's
top marks.
Out of curiosity, like I love my whiskies, but what kind of whiskey? What's your go-to in terms of kind of your flavors and stuff? I'm not. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a PT fan.
Oh my.
I mean, I am fairly indiscriminate. I like most whiskies. I do quite enjoy smoky, peaty whiskies, but I tend to not have them that regularly. I think you've got to be in the right sort of frame of mind for them. So typically I go for sherry aged whiskies, which are very sweet, very dark usually, and just have a really nice, easy drinking kind of nature to them. I always think if you're going to tell somebody, get someone started on whiskey, that's the place to start, because that sweetness mellows them a bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I've got a bit of a selection here from going around Scotland and stuff, and my dad, he quite likes some peaty whiskies, but I do like those caramel hints. Those I have got a bit of a sweet tooth, so I like the sweeter whiskies. And I'm not drinking it now; I've got it in the cupboard. But one of my favourites is that Bunnahabhain. Have you had that one?
Yeah, lovely, very nice. Yeah,
that's a really really nice one. But good choice there.
And do you drink these whiskies where you're at the moment? Because where you're at the moment is in some sort of wooden cabin with antlers on the wall. You've got your Stetson hat on. I mean, for all we know, you literally could be in deep South America. But
I could be in Montana right now. You wouldn't know, would you? I might be. No, yeah. Well, it certainly suits the scene. This is my little retreat here in East Sussex, so it's just a perfect place to sip some whiskey.
So are you drinking whiskey now?
No, actually, funny enough, even though I have a bottle just right in front of me, I got your memo. I got your note about the drink. And I've chosen something that's a few reasons why I really like this drink. A, it tastes incredible, and it holds a special place in my heart. So I've got a really nice bottle here of Bailey's. No, in all seriousness, I do like a bit of Bailey's at Christmas time, not going to lie. Who doesn't? But I've actually got my friend's gin, and it's a really, really bloody good gin. 11's Distillery. So I don't know if you guys have come across this.
No.
So my good friends, Paul and Jake, father and son, actually it's a family business. They've the sisters as well. They run a gin distillery out of North Wales. I came across these guys a couple of years ago at the Welsh Game Fair. I was running the restaurant with Bryn Williams for the event, and I bumped into Paul outside with his daughter Sam. And some people you can have a chat, you just get on so well.
Yeah.
And we had a really, really nice chat outside the restaurant about hunting and fishing and all the things that we're all passionate about. And then I never thought anything about it. And then this was kind of, was it September time? So in January, I had a phone call out the blue from Paul. And he said to me, look, he goes, 11's Distillery, which is done on the Veinol estate where the Welsh Game Fair was. It's not there this year, unfortunately. And he said, we're going to do a big party, a family party, and 11, it's going to focus on the gin. Would you come and cater it? And I went, oh yeah, I could come and do a barbecue and cater for it. He goes, but there's one condition. And I said, what's the condition for that? He says, well, he goes, I've got strong ties to Ireland, and we need venison for the barbecue. So I want to take you to Ireland to shoot some sika for the barbecue. I said, I'm not sure about that, Paul. I said, it's a really, okay then. Yeah, fine. Deal. It's a done deal. But we become really good friends, and the family gins, which are all natural botanicals, done, out just outside Anglesey in North Wales. Well, Bangor, really. And it's really, really good gin. And I'm not just saying it because obviously I know them. He's a friend of mine, but I drink it quite regularly. In fact, they've got a sea kelp one, which I've ran out of. So, Paul, if you're hearing this, I'd like another bottle of sea kelp. So I've just gone for the Welsh dry. But if I'm feeling fruity, very fruity, then I've got some Origin passion fruit or the strawberry and lime. The thing is, these days there's millions of gins out there, and the whole gin fad, and people kind of so many different bottles and fruitiness. But this really does stand out. So if you get a chance to try some 11's Distillery gin, I fully recommend it.
Very nice shooting connection in the name there. I approve of that.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. And I've got to mention it, but we'll leave the limelight to 11's gin, and I will have this one on the next pod. But I found a Welsh gin the other day. It wasn't 11's, it was a different one. But genuinely, my favourite ever gin.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it when I had this one the other day. I was gobsmacked by how good it was. And I don't know what it is about Wales, but there's some good gins in there.
There's a lot of things that come out of Wales, Chris. You know that.
I didn't know Wales was just famous for great gin. So,
but do you know what? If you think about it now, like they've got some nice whiskies coming out of Wales now, and we've got some nice gins and some other things. There's a lot of small producers and retailers which are doing some really world class, food and drink. And I really, really can recommend this. If you get a chance, try it. If you remember your one, send it to me. I'd like to try the one that you had as well.
I'll ping you a WhatsApp with it. It was honestly well worth trying because blew my mind.
Have you got a mixer in there, Kai, or is it straight gin?
No, actually, right now it's straight. But I'm going to have some tonic in there. Normally, I'd have a little bit of lime or lemon in there as well. But to be honest with you, I haven't got any, so I forgot to get some. So I'm going to
straight gin on Friday afternoon. Lovely.
Yeah, who needs to do the school run at the end of the day? Just stick to the straight gin. I'm adding the tonic in.
I've got an interesting choice of beer. I always go for beer. I have got a Beavertown satellite. So we were mentioning Beavertown on the last pod as a particular favourite. Ross Ewing had a Beavertown. The satellite is Super Session IPA at 2.8%. So it is quite helpful because it's a little bit earlier than Friday. I'm not straight on the hard stuff like you guys. I actually have some things I really, really need to finish before the end of the day. But this is great. And it talks about calories, not that I'm interested in that. But it's actually really nice too. So, yeah. Beavertown satellite. There you go.
Excellent.
Is that your first Beavertown? Like, is that the only one you've had? Have you tried?
Well, I really like Beavertown, which is why I picked this. But I hadn't had this one. It's like half the strength of all their others because usually they're slightly punchier ones. But I love the hazies and stuff like that. This one's good.
No, yeah. I like Beavertown. And that session IPA, I've had that before. It's just so drinkable. It's just nice and light.
Yeah.
Lovely.
And this is literally the same thing, but half, like even lighter actually. It's called Satellite.
Kai, what we like to do next is turn to our mailbox. I always say post bag, but that feels a bit kind of old school. It's not Blue Peter, is it? So turn to our email inbox, and we ask our listeners to write in with their shooting confessions and their quandaries and their queries, and we do our level best to offer them some advice. This one is sort of somewhere between a confession and a quandary, I think. And it comes from somebody I've decided to call Dory. We always keep them anonymous to spare their blushes. And so Dory has written, I've got a shooting dilemma for you. Before I get to the quandary, a bit of background. I'm a keen, if relatively untalented, fly fisherman and shot who's only occasionally forayed into live game. I didn't grow up doing either, but was always very interested in both. So, as is my wont, I did some research, joined a couple of clubs, met some like-minded people, and got stuck in. Gradually, I became a competent fly fisherman and my clay shooting improved. Not being proud, I took some lessons and found my luck improved further. A few years ago now, a good friend of mine invited me to a driven day on a well-known and challenging high bird shoot in the north of England. It was my first driven day. In fact, other than pest control, it was my first live game day full stop. Very, very exciting, incredibly generous of him, but also somewhat daunting given the venue. After a wonderfully convivial dinner and quite a few stiffeners in the fantastic local pub the night before, I somehow managed not to be carrying an enormous hangover into shoot day and enjoyed a hearty breakfast. We were picked up from our digs by the sporting agent and ferried to the shoot in a fleet of Land Rovers. Upon arrival, we were shown to the gunroom where we could leave our stuff and change if we needed to. People started unloading gear, and, ever the helpful chap, I ferried quite a bit of stuff out of the Land Rovers and into the gunroom. After the briefing and some coffee, we loaded our day's essentials into the vehicles we'd be using to move from peg to peg, including some of the Land Rovers in which we'd arrived, and headed out. Arriving at the first drive, we were placed on our pegs. After a short while, I became aware of a bit of a kerfuffle a couple of pegs down, where my host appeared to be having a slightly heated conversation with the agent. Anyway, the drive began and it was wonderful. I missed some, hit a few, and generally had the most terrific time. When the drive finished and we headed back to the cars, I noticed my host looking rather fed up. Apparently, he'd had to stand the first drive because his gun hadn't made it to his peg. I never take my stuff out of the landy once we arrive, he said, but somebody did. They must have put it in the gunroom with the other stuff, but they bloody well didn't put it back in again when we headed out. Oh no, I said, pulling a very serious and concerned face.
Oh no.
The agent leapt into his jeep, belted back to the big house at some speed, and reappeared a little while later, crucially before the second drive, with the missing gun still safely in its slip. Much relief all round, and my host's day could begin. It wasn't until we finished the second drive that a slow but definite feeling of dread began crawling through my stomach. Then realization dawned. I became increasingly convinced that in my wish to be helpful with all the gear unloading, it was yours truly who'd committed this mortal sin and left my host's gun behind. I still don't know for sure that it was me, but I have my suspicions, and at the very least, it sure as hell might have been. A better man might have fessed up on the spot, even though the evidence was purely circumstantial. For better or worse, however, I decided to take the fifth and kept my mouth firmly shut. In my defense, my friend is a resilient sort of chap. It didn't appear to affect his shooting, and we went on to have a fabulous remainder of the day. In fact, he came to enjoy telling the war story of this shooting poltergeist after the event, and yet it still plays on my mind. My friend is sadly no longer with us, so I don't have the option of fessing up and taking my medicine. However, I like to think he's looking down from the sunlit uplands of an all-knowing place, and that if it was me, then he's smiling and has absolved me in absentia. Either way, I promise to grovel profusely and stand him a very large malt whenever and wherever we next meet. Back in the here and now, however, my question for you is this. What would you have done? Confessed your suspected but unproven sin, or bitten your tongue on the basis of least said, soonest mended, and got on with the day?
Oh,
That's a twist as well. Not because, I mean, usually our advice involves coming back and like, right, you got to go speak to this chap. I mean, that's sad.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's really sad.
I mean, I've got to say that's one of the best written pieces of correspondence we've had for a long time. I really enjoyed it. It's great. Kai, what would you have done if it had been you?
Can't Chris go first?
Nope.
I think he might have done the right thing, but at the same I think I'd have to say something and be at peace because he knows his friend, right? So he knows it's about knowing the person. And I don't know. It's a moral dilemma, isn't it? Here, what do you do? You know, do you tell them? Do you tell them and then ruin the rest of the day for yourself?
I think if they're kind of a light-hearted sort of a bloke, I guess the worst you're going to get is just a load of ribbing. I
think you're right, and it depends on the situation, depends on the person. But I think I would have said something just because then I know I could have cleared my mind for the rest of the day, despite the ribbing I would have got.
What's odd though is he's walked from the car to his peg without his gun.
Yeah.
And if you had a loader, your loader would have said, "Where's your gun?" So,
yeah.
What's happened there?
Well, I'll tell you what, though. I've got a confession of my own to make then, because reading this, I thought, oh, yeah. Last season, shooting at home, we all piled off the gun bus. I made my way to my peg. And I got to my peg and I thought, something's not right. And what I'd done is I picked up my cartridge bag, which was heavy. So it felt, sort of the normal sort of weight on my shoulder. I don't normally take my cartridge bag with me to the peg. And I'd got to my peg, number 7, by the way, long way from the gun bus, without my gun. And I then had to leg it, and literally leg it, all the way back to the gun bus, and then back again, and try and do so before the beaters got into the main part of the drive and the partridges started coming over.
I hope you got a ribbing.
Oh, God. I had to run past 6 other people to get there. Plus, friends and family standing, behind the line, picking up, watching me going, where the hell's he off to?
It's even funnier when someone's running in like a January or like a December plough or something.
Yeah.
Play. By the time they've got back to the gun bus, they're absolutely screwed.
Well, I was quite sweaty when I got back to my peg, I got to tell you. But it is easier done than you might think if you're, chatting away and having a nice time. And then you get there and go, oh, wait a minute. This doesn't feel right.
Well, guys, I have a confession that last season I actually forgot my gun completely at home. So,
oh, no.
So this was terrible. I had an invite, over to a local shoot down in Kent, Morgie, which is outside Tenterden.
Yeah.
It was a lovely little walked up day type of shoot. And my friend Paul from Elevenses, oh God, this is coming back now. He stayed at mine and we were loading up in the morning because he was coming with me. And I had my shotgun broken down in the case, but the actual shotgun actually was in the gun cabinet and not in the case. So we
oh no.
So it's even worse. You've got the big reveal in an empty box.
Oh, so we because we were rushing around and we were late that morning. So just chucking everything in, getting on the truck and all the way down, about an hour away from where I live, and opening up to see an empty box. I thought, God, luckily for me, there was a really nice guy called Chris who lent me his 20 bore. Didn't make any difference to my shooting at the end of the day, but it allowed me to play. So that,
so everything's on the excuse of not your gun. Yeah,
but that shotgun shooting. But the amount of times you hear stories, or I've actually been out with people as well who you talk about rifle shooting as well. You can bring your rifle, but you can forget your bolt. The amount of times that's happened. It's easy done.
Or the magazine.
Especially, I fire a few different rifles. I've got a blazer, but the magazine is built into the trigger. So it's not like you'd actually load one into the chamber. Without your magazine, you can't actually fire the rifle. So, yeah, it happens more often than you think.
So this guy's scenario, he didn't know till the end of the drive. And he genuinely didn't know till the end of the drive. It sounds like in the ways he's explained that, which that's a real saving grace for him, because if he'd spotted right at the start of the drive, he would have felt like absolute crap, because I think he knows deep down that he caused this, obviously.
It sounds like it, doesn't it?
The way that he words it leaves some element of room for doubt, but there's no doubt here. So he finds out at the end of the drive and then never says anything.
Yeah.
And if you're watching your mates shoot and you're on your peg and you're supposed to be shooting, there's not a lot of funniness to be had in, I forgot my gun. That's just like genuine, that's anger, I think.
Well, I mean, he's probably, the thing is, he's standing there, presumably watching some lovely birds going over his peg.
Oh, that's awful feeling. That is.
Well, I mean, I had something similar. I mean, it's not quite the same, but when you came and shot with us, Chris, obviously my gun broke, the firing pin went. And so what I had is watching birds going between you and me, thinking, oh, I could take that one off the end of Chris's barrels and swinging through and going click. And that was, if anything, worse.
You're right. When I said that's an awful feeling, that's exactly where that feeling and memory comes from. When my gun is broken, my firing, the ejector's gone ping straight out the end and shorn off. And I've stood there on a drive at Beaver Castle, actually, on an early season partridge day, quite a big day, and just watching clouds of really decent partridges go over your head. And that's a horrible, horrible position to be in. So this guy gets his gun back. I don't know what I'd do in this situation. I've absolutely, and obviously now that this poor chap's left us, what are we suggesting?
I think he needs to visit the grave.
Yeah.
Confession.
That is a great idea.
Go and leave a couple of empty shells on the grave.
Couple of empty shells.
Yeah.
And a little note for the next member of the family that's visiting the grave.
And a little tumbler of whiskey. Terribly sorry, old chap.
Yes. I can't beat that. Good suggestion. Because I think the fact that he's emailed us is also really telling.
Yeah.
It's on his mind.
He's guilty.
Yeah. But he's obviously got a conscience he needs clearing, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And just by emailing us doesn't do it. It doesn't go close. I can't beat your suggestion, George.
So Chris, you're saying on the day though, would you have confessed then and there?
Oh God. I think deep down I would have done, but it really does depend on who that person is.
Exactly.
I know some people that would lose their shit in that scenario, and there's no way you're confessing because you'd probably get shot. Yeah, I don't know. How about you, George?
I think I'd probably keep my head down. I think unless I was absolutely certain that it was me, I think I'd go, well, it could have been someone else. It might have been someone else.
What's so tough is that this has come from a really good place. Obviously, super eager to help, must clear out the car. I mean, first of all, what's he thinking? But anyway, he's really keen to help. And then totally screwed up his host. Dear. Yeah, Kai, what are you doing on the day?
I think I would morally I'd have to confess, but that's me saying it right now in sound mind in front of you guys. But on the day, you got to think about like you said, who the person is. Are they going to lose their shit? If so, I might just have to button my beak, and just hopefully it will just ride over. Which, I mean, look, this guy's emailed in. We are his church. He's confessed. So do you think we've cleansed him of his sins now?
Well, I think once he's gone and laid the cartridges on the, it's like saying a Hail Mary.
Yeah, I think that's a great shout. I think just thinking about it, if you're going to confess on the day, like the hero's confession would be something along the lines of, "Look, I'm really sorry. I was trying to do this nice thing. I think this might have been me. The next drive, I will go beating. We will move the line along, and you can stand in between two pegs." And I will send some birds towards you. And then, like, you're getting on the front foot. You're not going to get much of a ribbing after that because you've literally.
But would you do that, Chris? Would you do that? That's the question.
I mean, it takes something, doesn't it, to say that on a decent day up in. He's gone up to Scotland or something.
Oh.
I don't know if I could do that, but that's what I'd want to see someone do. That would be the ultimate.
Right. Well, I think we've done that one. I think we've got a solution that works. So what's next, Chris?
Well, for the first time, I think we've had some correspondence about a former guest's desert island shooting. So, Kai, for your benefit, and everyone who hasn't listened to the last episode, Ross Ewing was our guest, and his desert island shooting at the end of the pod was to have a clay set up on a aircraft carrier. he wants to shoot clays at an aircraft carrier, saying it's big enough to basically put the whole of Bisley on there and have a really good time. And we had a lot of jokes about that. And it seems that we've got a strong following amongst members of His Majesty's Armed Forces. So we've had not one but two missives about Ross's proposal to shoot clays on the aircraft carrier, both with different perspectives. The first comes from Henry. I listened with interest to your recent episode with Ross Ewing. As a serving army officer with a naval past, his desert island shooting stirred the imagination. Nevertheless, and not wanting to completely be a naysayer, I wanted to offer some considerations that future desert island shooters should be wary of in choosing an underway shooting ground. Having shot a variety of guns, in inverted commas, from a moving platform, a small part of that was on clays. I found that it offers less sport than you'd imagine. The forward momentum of the platform, ship in this case, means a clay launch forward will eventually reach the speed of the ship and appear to hold its position. If only the game did the same. Proving relatively easy to dispatch if you can hold your nerve. Conversely, if launched backwards and away from the direction of travel, it will quickly be out of range. Now that bit sounds fun. I would grant that the pitch and roll of the ship underway offers more challenge than that offered from the drier variety, though not enough to keep many interested for long. Despite this, I would still accept an offer to shoot from the deck of an aircraft carrier, though suspect I've talked myself out of any such invitation. Yeah, I reckon you have. The clay going... What speeds an aircraft carrier do? I'm Googling. Go guesses, guys.
No idea. Idea. I think they're probably faster than they look. I don't imagine they're slicing through the water, though, at great speed. Just because it take.
Hold on. Yeah, go. What do you reckon?
Are we going to do this in knots? I don't really know what a knot is.
Well, a knot's a bit more than a mile an hour, isn't it?
20 knots.
Can't remember. Because that's quite a fair whack anyway. I've been 50 knots on a boat, and it's a serious speed.
Yeah.
So 30 knots an aircraft carrier will do.
Right.
Oh, wow.
So that's 56 kilometers an hour.
Okay.
It's not that fast. It's fast. I mean, it's pretty quick. But if you're sending a clay the other way, which is already pretty quick, right? A clay coming out of a trap.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun.
That's fast.
That's going straight.
That's really fast.
Exactly. And as he says, the pitch and the roll of the ship, that's making shooting really tricky. So that's pretty dangerous.
Do aircraft carriers pitch and roll all that much? I mean, they're pretty huge.
It's more than a block of flats, true. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so he says it's not that great.
So the second comes from Andy, who begs to differ. I'm an ex-Royal Navy, spent 26 years as a logistics officer, and one of my finest memories from 33 years ago is shooting manual trap launch clays from the flight deck of a Leander-class frigate. When the clays ran out, we crushed beer cans in a homemade crusher and used those instead. Less storage space required and never ran out of beer cans. Really great fun. So Ross, speak to your Commander Air XO and FDO and make it happen off the stern. Very little FOD risk. FOD risk. That was the...
debris on the flight deck.
Yeah, that's it. Foreign object. May also help if you take them for a day out on the clays ashore to get them addicted and even more up for the idea. So there you go. That guy reckons it's doable. Now we need videos.
Yeah, surely it's been, like you said, it's been done. So we need videos of this. We need proof. So
yeah, there's different ways. We were talking about, because they've got drop decks as well. So getting yourself down below deck.
Yeah.
High speed clay. Yes.
This guy. I mean, it reminds me of a mate of mine's dad was a colonel or something like that, and he was stationed on some Mediterranean island in his sort of mid-20s, and was famously very nearly court-martialed for water skiing behind the back of a helicopter. So that of a similar ilk to this, isn't it?
Water skiing behind a helicopter.
That sounds dangerous.
Yeah, I think that's probably why they were not too pleased with him.
There's a lot that can go wrong there.
Wow.
Well, because if you let go, doesn't the rope pings up, doesn't it?
I haven't done any water skiing, so I couldn't tell you.
No.
I mean, if that ends up in the choppers, I mean, you get chopped pretty quick, but anyway.
Good. Right. So, Dory, Henry, and Andy, and now you, Kai, are the newest members of the Most Noble Order of the Garters and will very soon be in receipt of a set of the much coveted Guns on Pegs podcast, Shooting Sock Garters. If you too have got a shooting confession, quandary, or a query that you'd like us and our guests to help you with, or if you'd like to share an unpopular opinion or a forgotten drive or a drive name that you particularly love, and you would like a set of garters, drop us an email to pod@gunsonpegs.com.
And definitely, if you're thinking about it, do it. Some of the best bits of correspondence have been from people who've been umming and ahhing about sending it in. So pod@gunsonpegs.com. Get your thoughts in. We love going through them.
Well, the other thing that occurs to me, Chris, is are we making this announcement now?
Oh, God, what's the announcement?
October.
Oh, shit.
Do you want to say that now or should we save it? Should we trail it now?
Go on, have a go.
Okay.
We've got enough time. I've got none of the details in front of me.
I haven't got any of the details either, so we'll trail it like this. The next Guns on Pegs podcast, Order of the Garters shoot day, is in the diary. It is the 25th of October, I think, and it is at Iford Downs in Sussex. We will provide more information when we've been organised enough to put it in the script in the next episode. So
it's going to be the usual format where we bring the price down as much as we can. So we have to apologise straight away. We have had a very kind shoot manager, owner, host contact us, Jamie Horner, who runs Iford Downs right down on the coast. And we have to apologise because that's really inconvenient for most of the country. Unless you're in the southeast of England. But it was such a good offer that he's made. He's quite a long-term friend of Guns on Pegs. Such a good offer that he's made to us that we basically had to say yes. So for those up north, we'll make good the following year, and we've already lined up a couple of ideas. So as George says, 25th of October, which is a Friday. So we'll be there the Thursday night. I'll be there till too late with a little bit of a hangover in the morning, as is normal. Mm-hmm. And we'll be sharing pegs. So we're going to probably have 20 Garter members out, including 18 plus you and I, George.
Yep.
And Kai, you're going to have to think carefully about this. It's down the road from you, isn't it?
It's not too far away at all.
And it will be in the region of sort of 400 or 500 quid, something like that. And so it's kind of like priced to sort of make sure as many people can get involved as possible.
Yeah, and the reason I mention it is because, of course, in order to qualify to come, you have to have a set of garters. So if you are sitting on a story, if you are sitting on an unpopular opinion, get it sent in. And if we read it out in any of the next few episodes, then you'll qualify for the shoot day. So, yeah, do get them in, pod@gunsonpegs.com.
And we already have to say a massive thank you to Jake Wolf, who's stepped up again and out of nowhere basically emailed us saying, guys, this is all sorted. Here's the date. And we were like, thank you. So absolute hero. So yes, pod@gunsonpegs.com. Let's fill this up.
Right. So Kai, can you give us a bit of a potted history of your life in field sports in general, and then how Game and Flames came about in the first place?
Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one. So I grew up in North Wales. My dad worked in the nuclear industry, lived in Snowdonia. So I wouldn't call it a hunting area because there's no hardly any, well, there is obviously some decent shoots around now, but when I was younger, there's no, I never went rabbit shooting or deer stalking or anything else like that. My family wasn't that way inclined, but what me and my brother did do is we just loved trout fishing. So we used to go with my dad, who my dad is not a fisherman at all, but because for some weird reason, me and my brother, we just loved the idea of going fishing. He used to take us, and we're all beginners. This wasn't fly fishing. This is just like a bobble float, worms from the garden, maggots. And we'd go to the local little river and we'd catch little brown trout. And then I had this fascination about eating what I caught. So I would kind of insist my grandmother or my mum or dad to kind of cook these little small trout that I'd catch. There wasn't many, but I had this thing inside me that I felt like I needed to, if I was going to take something from the wild, I'd like to eat it. And if something that's primal. So, and actually the very first fish that I caught before a brown trout was an eel. And again, I asked my mum and dad to cook me an eel, and that was probably one of the first fish that I'd caught, and I ate it. I ate every single bit, and there's a bit of satisfaction in that, and I think that's always stayed with me. So when as a family we moved when I was about 8. Down to Kent, Dungeness. So the power station closed in Trowsfynu, the North Wales. A lot of people got laid off, and a lot of the Welsh, a lot of the Welsh workers and their families moved to other places around the UK, and they went to Essex, Bradwell in Essex, Suffolk. You've got Sizewell, and all along the kind of the west coast there, you've got Hinckley and all sorts down there. But we went to Dungeness, which sounded quite exciting at first. I thought it was Scotland, but turns out it wasn't. But the weather is better. So, I mean, swings and roundabouts. Growing up, I started working in restaurants when I was 15. I started air rifle shooting with my friends, just typical things. You just go in the woods with your friends and have an air rifle. You have no clue what you're doing. And really cheap 40 quid air rifles, shooting cans and all that type of stuff. And eventually got a decent air rifle. It was a Viroc HW80, which is actually a classic. A lot of people's first, serious air rifle. It's a break barrel, very heavy, very accurate. And I shot my first rabbit with it. And had a family friend of ours show me how to do a satay recipe. And we did rabbit satay. And that was probably the first time I ate rabbit and did a game recipe. And the love grew from there. I still did some fishing. I hadn't taken fly fishing at that point. I was doing sea fishing a lot down here. Dungeness was quite iconic for its sea fishing.
Yeah.
Not so much anymore. But we had some fantastic fishing. But again, not so much rivers. So I kind of grew up. And then when I was 15, I worked in a restaurant in Hythe, washing up as most people did when they first, do kitchen porter. And then I started working carveries at another pub called the Neptune down in Dymchurch and learning how to kind of cook meats. And I always remember Friday nights used to be steak night. And back then it was 10 quid for any steak plus like unlimited chips, mash, peas, whatever. And my boss at the time, he was a bit of an arsehole, to be honest, but he did buy like this massive indoor barbecue, and I haven't seen anything like it since. This is going back like well over 20 something years ago. A massive indoor barbecue, char grill barbecue, and Friday nights I used to assist the chef doing it. He left, and then by 17 I was doing the steak nights. So we used to make rubs and everything back then, and that's how I learned how to cook meat first of all. And from then on, worked in the nuclear industry. My dad was a union rep, and he was telling me there's some good jobs coming up and radiation protection. So that was my career from then on, radiation protection. So I left the kitchen industry for a while and went into health physics. Did that for 17 years, till about 3 years ago. But anyway, in between then, I started a business called Wild Food Catering Company with a friend called Adam. So we went to it was Ragley Hall Game Fair, and we saw the food that was on display at the time. Hardly any game was being served out of the food trucks and catering. So we decided to do venison and wild boar burgers. We did that for about 7 years. The problem is with catering to the public and what I call, getting paid on the day from the public is the weather, your pitch fees, your competition. There's so much involved. You have no idea how much you're going to sell. You don't have, especially if you've got perishable stock. Sometimes it's a gamble, and quite often you have to spend a lot of money just to be at these events. So we did that for 7 years. Had great fun doing it. Made some great friends. I started off with. While I was doing that, I started off with Team Wild. Do you remember Team Wild? Did you ever watch that?
Yeah.
With Ian Harford.
Yeah, with Ian. Yeah, so Ian and Keith. So I used to work, with them guys for a short period of time, and then I flipped over to Field Sports Channel TV, which I'm still at now with David and Charlie, which is great. But so I've had a bit of a journey, and then back in 2016, I gave up Wild Food Catering Company, just because the risk wasn't worth the reward. Took 6 months out and decided, actually, I do want to go back into it. I missed the kind of buzz of the catering and stuff, and it was still in me. So started teaching private school children and anyone else really, just little woodland workshops, skinning, butchering, cooking game, cooking on fire. I already did a little bit of fire cooking, a lot of research as well, trial and error. And I'd done some weddings previously with my previous company for friends, and I decided to go back into weddings, but trying to do them on fire and do corporate events. And very quickly, that just kind of that really took off. There was a gap in the market for it. As you know, so for Chris, we did your wedding. It not only is the food taste much better on fire, but the whole theatre behind it and the ties to game is the most primal you can get. We've been doing this 2 million years plus, and we're still doing it now with all this technology. Like, people are infatuated by meat on fire, and I don't think that will ever go away. So I think it's like boys and their toys, really. You get to play with fire. I get to shoot. I've been deer stalking for many years. So I was then processing all my own game, putting them on the menu, and that was kind of like my USP, and it still is my USP, really. And I've been doing that. I've been doing that now since 2016, and it's growing and growing. COVID, there was a bit of a stop, like with everything. And I remember chatting to you, Chris, during that time because
it was horrible, wasn't it?
because we had to postpone, didn't we? And then we came up, and ideally we were trying to get you to come out with me, but that never really worked just because of what was going on.
Having children and all sorts.
Oh, they do get in the way. we love them, but it's so yeah, and that's kind of been the journey. And my deer stalking is my passion. I do love fishing. I've taken up fly fishing and everything else, but we're quite lucky here in this part of the world. I mean, to be honest, the whole of the UK, most parts of the UK now have got deer problems. But East Sussex, we've got so much beautiful countryside, woodland, great weather. The deer thrive. We've got lots of roe deer and fallow deer. Muntjacs starting to come in now. And so for me, being a caterer, having lots of fallow deer in abundance and the permission to shoot them, it's a no-brainer. So I get to combine my hobby, with my lifestyle. And since I gave up Dungeness Power Station, 2.5 years ago, whenever it was, it's been absolutely amazing. It's great.
It's so interesting. I mean, one of the questions I always want to ask game chefs, and I'm going to ask you, is which came first? Was it the love of cooking or the love of hunting? And actually, from what you said there, it sounds like maybe they sort of caused each other a bit.
They did, yeah. And you know what? I always remember one of my earliest memories is my dad teaching me to cook scrambled eggs when I was like 5 or something. And so I've always had an interest in cooking, mainly just because I just bloody love eating. Like, the thing is, if you like good food and if you're passionate about good food, you tend to kind of like cooking because you just want to recreate some of that at home. But yeah, they kind of fed into each other, to be honest with you. Throughout my early life and bits and pieces and being a teenager and getting up to mischief and stuff, kind of it dips in and out. But yeah, I would say, from my late teens onwards, fishing and kind of shooting and cooking has been a big part of my life.
There's something so interesting about what you say about, we've been hunting for 2 million years and then sticking that on fire, and it's still as mesmerizing today as it was then. I think that is such an important point, because one of the things that I was really excited about when you did our wedding is I had an eclectic group, like you would at anyone's wedding, really.
Yeah.
And quite a number of people had never eaten anything, vaguely off-piste. For want of a better phrase, who were there, and we had great fun coming up with what are we gonna serve, and basically let's not tell anyone what any of it is, and just see how many people love all of it, which was kind of just this was my little game throughout the day. Just wanted to see what people's reaction was, and I forget some of the bits that we did actually, but it was brilliant.
One of the things that comes to my mind that we did at your wedding that we haven't done at any other event since is we came up with remember the Thai rabbit sliders?
Oh yes, that was it.
Yeah, they were good.
They were so good. And no one knew what they were. and everyone was like, they are amazing. And I was like, brilliant, yeah, rabbit. And everyone's like, really?
I know.
And that's what I love. I love that challenge.
But people will remember that from your wedding for a very long time, because we recommend this to a lot of couples that get married. But this is like, you don't have to tell your guests your menu, because especially like one of the most popular ones that we do as well is the pigeon breast popper.
Yeah.
If you told someone beforehand what it is, a lot of people wouldn't eat it, especially people who are not familiar with pigeon.
Or from the countryside.
Exactly, because they think of the Trafalgar Square pigeon, and they think it's dirty, disgusting. But a lot of people are drinking and they're social, they're talking, and when you give out canapes, or when my staff give out canapes, they don't really talk much to the guest. Well, they do sometimes, but they normally just pick it and stick it straight in their mouth.
Yeah.
And the reactions are just incredible, because now our wood pigeon is the most popular canapé that we do. Out of all the stuffed peppers and conventional stuff, the pigeon breast with cream cheese and jalapeno wrapped in streaky bacon is the flagship.
Amazing. Yeah.
It's so good, isn't it? And it's such the amount that you are doing, and actually this links to this best influencer category that you won. Now that's mainly for social media, but I think actually, even though that you thoroughly deserve that award, what's actually lost on a lot of people when they think about you winning that award is the number of people that you've got to try game through what you do has got to be the highest out of pretty much everyone. I mean, there's obviously a few other people doing game at weddings, but not quite in the focus that you're doing.
No, and do you know what? I thought about this the other day, and there's a lot of people, that promoting game and all sorts, but to feed people who would not normally eat game, I think that's the thing, to try and change some of their perspectives on the game. Where people think, because a lot like in your wedding, our flagship main course is our fallow venison in the rub, and we cook that on fire. We cook it till it's like 52 degrees, slice it up till it's like beautifully medium rare in the middle, and it's almost beef-like. It's not gamey. It's not gamey at all. And the amount of people, just like the canapes, that have had it out in front of them, taken a slice and said that beef was fantastic. What was the rub?
Loads of people said that. And I remember being so happy. I was like, yes. Look, I just wanted everyone to think it was beef that hadn't eaten venison before for that exact reason.
And, a lot of people still think, it's game of venison's elitist. It's really strong and gamey. But I said, look, a lot of recipes for game, especially the older recipes, is like add juniper, add red wine, add all these overpowering ingredients into it, and change the flavor profile of it. And a lot of people have grown up with having venison and red wine sausages and burgers. Well, you can make some beautiful, just normal venison sausages with some really basic seasoning, which are incredible. But it's how you cook it and what you put with it. And it's eating. For me, I don't shoot deer during the rut season. It's personal choice. I don't serve it to my guests, because it can be tainted. And it's if you go to a game dealer and he'll give you a bit of meat that's been in the rut or something, you can taste the difference.
Yeah.
Or if it's an old buck that they've just put into steaks, and that's the thing. It's kind of treating the carcass properly, knowing what you've got, and kind of cooking it accordingly. And so when we go back to the weddings and events, when we cook for guests at weddings, and like your guests, they had no idea what it was, and you change their perspective on it, that is so rewarding to me, because I've achieved something, I've really achieved something.
Yeah.
I've changed someone's perspective, and hopefully they'll go out and go, I remember that venison from that wedding. I'm going to go and buy some and do it at the barbecue this summer,
Yeah, and that's social license to shoot, isn't it?
And and another thing that's really surprised me over the last couple of years. So as well as weddings and stuff like that, I like to keep a bit exciting for me and my team. So we've done the game fairs, but we also do a couple of festivals now. Like I love my country music, so we do a couple of country music festivals.
You do Black Deer.
We do Black Deer Festival, and we do Long Road Festival in Leicestershire direction. Couple of really good, nice, small, family-friendly, cool festivals. We serve lamb and we serve venison flatbreads. And I have a look at the figures at the end of the event, and it's 50-50 of what we sold. Like, and that blows me away, because I would have thought that would be like at least 2/3 more lamb than venison. But I feel like there is a little bit of a change. I do, especially in maybe a certain demographic or people, but people are more open to it. And we cook venison on the open fires. We put them with like fresh kind of like salads and, just really nice dressing, and then put it in a toasted flatbread for a festival food. That's high-end festival food.
Yeah.
And smashed garlic potatoes on the side. And
Amazing.
around 50-50. And like, it just, blows me away.
So I've got two questions around the festival. First of all, I've looked at Black Deer before and thought that looks like a great festival. Is it fun?
It's really fun. It's a country Americana festival. And it's something there for everyone. Like, I went the first time with my other half as a public, basically. I want to go. We've got a ticket for a day. Got drunk on moonshine, ate loads of barbecue food, and I thought, this is great.
I mean, it sounds right up my street.
I could do this. And then I got talking to the organisers, and actually what's really cool about Black Deer as well, they have a live fire stage. So they have, not only do they have the music, but they're massively barbecue focused as well. So you've got... I don't know if they're doing it this year, but previous years, Weber have sponsored it. You've had, some really good barbecue giants in this country. Marcus Bowden from Country Fire. I can't remember what it's called now, but anyway, he is, he's a barbecue guru and a good friend of ours now. You've got some really good chefs doing barbecue demos. I've done a demo there. James Brace has worked for me. He's done a demo there. And so not only do you get like really good music and good bars, good kind of Americana themes, but you also get like, good barbecue show. And what's really cool about it as well, and you'd love this, is that they have two competitions live on stage. And where our stand is, we face the barbecue stage, so we get to watch when we're working. And they have a chili eating competition by the Clifton Chili Club, and then they have a hot dog eating competition. How many hot dogs? So they have. I don't know how many people it is. 8 or 10 people that they'll have sitting down. Cameras on them, big screens, and they'll have like these packed out, and they have these competitions, and it's great watching these people suffer on stage. It's fantastic.
Okay, so my second question is, we've had Louisa from Eat Wild on the podcast before, and she was talking about her experience of taking the Eat Wild show on the road to Carfest, wasn't it? And saying that she was having people coming up to her saying things like, "What is a venison?" So do you have a similar sort of experience at the festivals that you've done where people don't really know what venison is, or is it a slightly more savvy crowd at Black Deer?
Well, okay, we have got it. Like, I will admit, a lot of it tends to be people from overseas who maybe don't understand the way it's written or the language, or so I'll have to kind of do like the antlers thing on top of my head to try and explain what venison is. But they do. We do get it. It is rarely now, and this is why I'm saying it has changed my mind a little bit. Doing these events, because a lot of people seem to know what venison is. Again, there is obviously small people that don't, like I said, and we do correct them. But yeah, it surprised me how many people, how I've had that question more often, I should say, really.
So it's heading in the right direction. This is something to be motivated about.
Well, I think so, massively. And, if we look back like 10 years, I mean, it's in more places now. It's all over social media a lot more. Okay, maybe it's in the circles that we mix in that we see a lot more than anyone else. But I see it more than most people when I'm doing these events and I'm doing weddings and other things, So I like the way it's going. I had this conversation with someone the other day about it, saying, would it be great to have more people eat game? And I said, absolutely. But at the same time, you don't want everybody to eat game, because you're going to outstrip demand eventually in the future, So like, it's like you've got to have a happy medium somewhere down the line.
We'll be able to sort that problem out. I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to what you were saying before about the kind of primal nature of it. And actually, I've just written an article for Scribehan about the importance of hunting to human culture over time. And I'm, like you, very keen on live fire cooking. And I particularly love some of the more kind of, I guess you might call it primitive types of cooking. Like I love asado and that kind of style of cooking. And some of the, have you got a favorite technique, a favorite live fire cooking technique?
Again, there's so many different factors to this question. It depends on the meat that you're cooking and how, because like yourself, if you enjoy live fire, if you're going to cook a bit of steak, you're going to cook it different to a shoulder or a neck, right?
Yeah.
Live fire, I don't think you can beat, for me, live fire. Obviously, you got smoking and all that type of stuff, offset smoking, and there's lots of different types of kind of cooking on barbecues and fires and everything else. But more basic, live fire cooking is the most basic you can get, but it's, to me, is the most rewarding because you can sit outside. I'm not talking about your crappy gas barbecues and all that type of stuff. I'm talking about proper, get some wood or some charcoal on there at least. And then you sit around the fire with your mates with a beer, flipping some steaks. And do you actually need anything more than that? You can get as fancy as fine dining as you like. As long as the quality of the meat is good, you've got a good barbecue, good fire. And more importantly than any of that, you've got bloody good company. That to me is, you just cannot beat that.
Here. Yeah, I completely agree.
What's your go-to if you're like, right, Friday evening tonight, if you're out with a few mates and you're doing that, what's your go-to cut and way of doing it?
Okay, so again, it depends on the mood, but I really like, if I'm talking game, then the venison rump for me is, on a deer, the best steak on the deer. A lot of people talk about the loin. I love a loin, but this hasn't got much in texture, if you know what I mean. Like the loin, it's extremely tender, which is and lean, which is great for healthy eating. But in terms of a venison rump, it's almost got like a beef-like texture, incredibly tasty, and it melts in your mouth. So if I had a few of those, I would definitely whack those on. Conventional meats, if I have to go beef, a good thick ribeye is unbeatable in terms of, if you're talking about like farmed meats, like a nice thick ribeye that's cooked beautifully, nice simple rub. And
you just grill them?
I just grill them, yeah. Like some Sunday lunches, I've got a little rotisserie attachment onto the fire, so I can put like I can roast a chicken or a pheasant or whatever, which is quite nice. But if you want something Friday night, nice, quick and easy, throw a few, steaks and hot dogs on the fire. Like I'm quite, in some ways, I'm quite a simple person that, I love good food, love it cooked well. You don't need to mess around too much with it. I have done a lot fancier stuff, your porchettas, or you can do that with venison as well. We just get the loin and you get the side of the belly and you roll it and stuff it, and that's really good.
Amazing.
Bit more labor intensive.
Yeah.
Takes longer, but in terms of having your mates around and stuff like that, that would be my go-to.
So I've got another question for you, which is, I think this was part of the wedding menu plan, wasn't it? That so Patrick Laurie's just written a really interesting piece on the spread of wild boar in Galloway. And there's sort of pros and cons of that from a conservation and farming perspective. But I would imagine that as a game chef and as a stalker, you're pretty excited about. And I think they are in Sussex, aren't they, wild boar? So
yeah. Well, I mean, in fact, they were probably in Sussex before anywhere else, because we've had wild boar here, not far from where I am now, for a long time. I think the heyday for the Sussex boar has gone, unfortunately, different reasons. And then it kind of moved on to the Forest of Dean.
Yeah.
Forest of Dean have produced a healthy amount of boars. I've been there quite a few times. In fact, I've just come back from a trip with my friend Dan and Warren Broad, who took us out a few weeks ago. My friend Dan got a really nice pig. But I've shot 4 pigs with Warren down in the Forest of Dean. And there's something about wild boar that just absolutely fascinates me. And I think it's like this medieval thing. When you see them in the wild and running and not used to seeing them, the beast-like things, like furry, with big tusks and the way that they move, and they're so silent. In other words, almost invisible. And then when you do see them, it's almost like a mythical creature.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's I'm just obsessed with them. And the meat, you cook it right, and again, they make some, the best kind of sausages. And we for weddings and stuff, we do pulled boar shoulders, so I get them sent from the Forest of Dean to me. Hank's Meat and Games to send them, and then also Deer Box actually through Warren. They've sent me loads recently, which has been great. And they do next day delivery, which is as a business for me is absolutely amazing.
Very helpful.
So we slow cook that and smoke that, and then shred it apart, and that's just that's incredible. So to see more wild boar as a chef, yes, to me it's like just keep bringing them, get more and more. But if I was a landowner, I'd probably have I'd probably have a different side to the story. But to see them growing, like so from Sussex now, Forest of Dean, Scotland as well. So it's like we're saying, it's just to see them growing up there is just absolutely amazing.
Those wild boar sliders are something else. It's another. I know that wild boar's not quite at the same level of sort of getting people onto what we want to, but it's a lovely step in there in that direction. And the wild boar sliders are just
Actually,
I'm lost for words when they came out.
What I find really funny is, again, this shows how psychological food can be for people. A lot more people seem a lot more comfortable eating wild boar if they're particularly funny about game than they are venison, because they relate it closer to a pig.
Yeah.
So wild boar for them is almost pork-like, which is true. Obviously it's cross between pork and venison almost, but they seem a lot more comfortable with eating that. But they do make like the incredible burgers and sausages and the meatballs that we do for the canapes.
To wrap up this part, I'd love a little recipe, a simple recipe for you, something that you think give a few listeners a bit of a takeaway for the barbecue this summer. What's your go-to suggestion?
So I think I had a good think about this earlier on, Chris, and I think wood pigeon is massively underrated, right? And this, as a whole, and I think a lot of people who shoot and eaten pigeon properly will know that good wood pigeon is absolutely delicious. And people that have had bad pigeon, I'm convinced they've just not had it cooked right.
Yeah,
and it makes a hell of a difference. If you ever cook a wood pigeon breast until it's kind of like medium to well done or well done, it goes dry, it goes livery, it gets strong. All the things that people don't like about game, that's what it becomes. So if you flash fry it until it's pink in the middle, like medium rare, you literally can't go wrong. It's like steak. So a really, really simple recipe. And I'm going back to when I spoke to you earlier on about when I did the company called Wild Food Catering Company. We started doing wood pigeon breast wraps as well as our burgers, and they sold really, really well. The way I do it, and again, it's not chefy, it's not fancy. This is purely for people at home to go out and get a couple of pigeon breasts and knock up a meal in minutes. Get your pigeon breast, season it with some salt, pepper, and you can put a bit of five spice if you want it as well. You can fry it off, probably about 40 seconds on each side, and let it rest. So that still be rare, okay, on a high temperature. So you get nice color on the outside. Let it rest. Then what you do is slice it. Once it's rested, you slice it really thin lengthways and put it on a pile. Then get some spring onions and slice that up like you do Chinese style, and cucumber. Get a nice little tortilla wrap, almost like a taco if you wish.
Yeah.
Okay. Toast that. And then get your pigeon, put some hoisin in the pan or some plum sauce, and just put your pigeon in it. Mix it around just to warm it through. You're not cooking it. The pigeon's already cooked, okay? But get that sauce warm first. Take it off the heat. Put your pigeon through it so it's not going to keep on cooking. And then serve it that way, and it's just wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
That does sound amazing. And you could cook the pigeon off on the barbecue as well instead of frying it if you've got a nice hot grill.
Yeah, you just need to make sure that temperature, like if you're cooking it on like a medium temperature, what you're going to end up doing is actually probably overcook the pigeon, because you're not going to caramelize the outside and have it pink in the middle. So it literally has to be like searing hot to cook pigeon. Yeah. I'm talking pigeon breasts here. I'm not talking about the whole bird. Obviously, this is pigeon breasts.
Yeah.
if you do it that way and just a bit of seasoning and just have that wrap, and you can give it to anyone will have it. If you like a bit of spice, you can always add some chilies in it or whatever, all that type of stuff. You can use that as your base. But that is a gorgeous wrap.
Great suggestion. My mouth's watering. It's been a tough pod to do in the afternoon, and I'm like, oh.
I might have to go out and shoot a pigeon.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
What have you got for dinner tonight then? Pigeon?
Well, it sounds like it might be. I don't think there's anything in the fridge, so I might have to go and shoot a pigeon if I want supper.
Well, I think that's what we're going to have to. We were supposed to be out. It's my wife's birthday, but we've got a very sick child, and I now think our whole birthday plans are cancelled. So if I run outside with the old Hush Power 410, I can just address dinner right now.
I'd like to know if any of your listeners have stayed with us for this long, listening to me waffle on, and decide that they want to cook that. I'd like to know people's thoughts on that, because I think it's, for a quick snack, it's a one that's quite hard to beat. So yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, write in, let us know, pod@gunsonpegs.com if you've given that a try. I'd like to know as well.
Right. So, Kai, the way that we finish these pods off is a scenario where the extinction level asteroid is going to hit tomorrow. Your affairs are in order, your loved ones and enemies are reconciled, your dogs are fed, and tomatoes are watered. Your last day shooting ever begins how?
I've been trying to prepare for this, but it's so, when you're interested in so many types of shooting, it's so hard. But I'll be honest with you, I'm going to stick to my guns, actually. And it's only because I find great peace in being in my own permission, my own ground, looking across the Sussex countryside, and to go on a nice breakfast, early morning, nice coffee, get up, go for a decent stalk and a nice fallow buck. I could be anywhere in the world, but we take for granted the countryside that we have around here. And I have been all over Europe and places like that hunting as well. Just come back from Florida. I did a bit of gator wrangling when I was out there as well. So on a family holiday that was as well. So I got a
day. Brave man.
I got a day release from Disney, and I went and wrestled
gator wrangling.
I wrestled an alligator. I got scars all over my arm from it, and but it's just one of those bucket list things I wanted to do. But while I was out there, so I was in Florida, and I met this guy. I'm not making the name up, I promise you. He's a really nice guy. His name is Colton Bullock, and he's a proper Southern guy that I made friends through online. And I spoke to my family. I said, "Look, I'm gonna meet this guy, but we're all sharing I went with my in-laws, so we're all sharing a family vehicle." And so they had to drop me off at this petrol station to meet him, the gas station. And this guy come out, and he is huge, must be 6'5", come out of a Chevy truck, and I wasn't sure if he's going to take me hunting or eat me. And
did he have a MAGA hat on?
You might as well have done. I promise you, yeah. But what a really nice guy. And his friend Zay, we're Instagram buddies now, but he used to work at Gatorland, and he's crazy, absolute. He does alligator wrestling and kissing and hugging and all that type of stuff for competitions. And so they taught me how to kind of wrangle in these alligators and do all that type of stuff. And then afterwards, I went for a drive with Colton, when he showed me some of the permissions around. Actually, Disneyland Reserve have got a massive bit of ground outside with all these animals and stuff. But it just reminded me that as much as I like being there, the stalking and the deer that we have in the UK and the laws that we can shoot pretty much, as long as we're responsible, we can shoot what we like. I think a nice morning out in Sussex, nice coffee, nice stalk, followed by a full English, to me is just perfect.
Love it.
You've got the whole day ahead of you. You haven't filled it. You're just going to put your feet up, and that's the last day ever, and enjoy it.
Well, yeah, okay then. That's just that's just the morning, Chris. I haven't got to the afternoon yet. But no, it's I could be out the whole day, and quite often I am. In the winter when I am stalking, I'm out for the whole day. But one of the bucket list things I do want to do, aside from a desert island thing, is actually to go over to Alaska and experience something over there. That would be if it was more than a day and had a period.
No, we can get you there.
Yeah.
That's absolutely fine. We'll get you there straight after your full English. Do you want your full English on the private jet?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't like shit black pudding. It's got to be Stornoway as well. You can't beat Stornoway black pudding. So.
No, not a problem. Chef's informed.
Alaska, would that be fishing, hunting, bit of both?
Both. Like I'd love to do I'd love to do fishing, but I'd love to do I've done reindeer hunting in Norway. That was incredible. That was a hell of an experience. I'd like to do caribou out there, and I'd like to do moose. I'm interested with bear, and it's just I've eaten bear and it's absolutely delicious. So I would like to maybe do that. It's just, I understand it's a bit of a controversial topic. So morally for me, it's just trying to kind of fight that, like growing up in this country is not something that we're used to, is it? So, and a lot of people are sensitive to that. But, looking at the, when you look overseas about how they manage them, with the tags and they manage them properly and the damage that they can do, it's sustainable. So that's the argument for me. One day possibly I'd like to do that, but for me to have to do that, I have to eat it. I can't just shoot it to have it on a wall, which is each to their own. But for me, with game, food comes first, and that's that's really important to me. So
epic.
Amazing.
It's been brilliant. It's been so good.
Do you know what? I always love talking to people about eating game and cooking game. I just love talking about it. And especially when people are as passionate as you are, Cai. So thank you ever so much for coming on. It's been really good fun.
That's been great fun.
Yeah. Cheers, Cai. Thanks for coming.
No worries.
Right, so before we go, all that remains for me to say is that there's a final reminder that you can get your hands on a pair of the very exclusive Guns on Pegs podcast shooting stock garters by sending us your shooting dilemmas for us to resolve, or by sharing your unpopular opinions, or letting us know about any forgotten drives or drives with particularly good stories behind the names. Drop us an email to pod@gunsonpegs.com, and if we read it out in any future episode, you will get your garters and you will qualify for the Order of the Garters shoot day taking place in October. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time, but until then, thanks very much for listening, and goodbye.